Hello, dear learners. Welcome to Exploring an Understanding of How Research Supports Yoga for Mental Health. Let's set forth on a journey of exploration, gently weaving the threads of research into the fabric of our own knowledge and skills. So, whether you're a therapist, a teacher, or simply a seeker of knowledge, I invite you to embrace these moments with a sense of gentle curiosity and openness. I'm your host, Judy Thompson, and in today's segment, we will be exploring the publication, The Ethics of Yoga in Mental Health Care, Beyond the Traditional Eightfold Path, published October 2023 in the journal Complementary Therapies in Medicine. Authored by Nina K. Volber, Andreas T. Schmidt, Agna A. Bartels-Velthuis, Brian D. Ostafen, and H. J. Rogier-Honders. In this episode, we will explore the ethical challenges of yoga in mental health care. We will consider the implications of adapting yoga into secular healthcare settings, and will also differentiate between cultural appropriation and cultural borrowing from a yogic intervention perspective. And we'll consider the need for diversity and accessibility in yoga interventions to ensure it serves a broad range of people from different demographics and abilities. Yoga is an ancient practice that originated in India between 3,000 and 5,000 years ago. Traditional yoga includes not only physical poses but also breathing techniques, ethical choices and actions, control of the senses, intentional focus, and meditation. And in this way, it is considered an 8-part comprehensive path for health, well-being, and spirituality. Yoga's therapeutic potential is promising, with the breadth of its application expanding into cognitive improvements, mental health, physical fitness, cancer care, and various other conditions. But there are also studies with mixed results, which call attention to the methodology, quality, application, bias, and flaw in research design. Thus, in integrating it into a healthcare setting, it is important to respect its comprehensive nature while understanding its boundaries. Recognizing yoga's capabilities allows informed treatment choices. Advocating for more in-depth research can help ensure yoga's most effective use and application within the healthcare setting. While assessing the potential benefits of yoga in mental health care, we also have to consider the ethical issues that come with it. Introducing a practice deeply linked to Eastern spirituality into Western healthcare, which is largely secular, is complex. Let's look at secularization. Yoga originates from ancient India, includes spiritual elements, and is intertwined with Hinduism. It's meant for overall enlightenment, not just physical health. In modern healthcare, yoga often becomes reduced to physical exercises, breath control, and meditation, leaving out its spiritual aspects. This leads us to ask, if we remove the spiritual parts of yoga to fit it into secular therapy, are we maintaining the essence of yoga, or are we changing it into something completely different? This question aligns directly with the issue of cultural appropriation. When does the utilization of yoga in Western healthcare transition from a respectful adoption of a therapeutic practice to a form of cultural misappropriation? It is vital to differentiate cultural borrowing, an exchange done in mutual respect, from cultural appropriation, characterized by imbalance and a lack of respect for the source culture. The secularization of yoga can risk crossing into appropriation. A respectful approach would mean that even in a secularized form, we preserve a sense of reverence and acknowledgement towards yoga's origins and philosophy. Traditionally, yoga's 8-part path includes what are called ethical guidelines and actions, and these are called yamas and niyamas. The yamas and the niyamas are an outlined path of what is considered right living, but do these ethical principles have a place within the healthcare system? And with this consideration, does excluding these guidelines make the practice more accessible to people of diverse beliefs and backgrounds, and thereby create cultural misappropriation? Excluding ethical principles from yoga interventions raises concerns about yoga losing the essence of its core purpose, that of self-improvement and existential relief. If yoga is simply treated as an exercise or relaxation method, we ignore a deep tradition that provides more than physical or mental benefits. Fundamentally, this concern speaks to the heart of yoga as more than a tool. It's a philosophy of life. It is essential, then, to find a balance to determine how to preserve yoga's true spirit while adapting it for use in mental health care. In striking this balance, it's important to consider, can we adopt a purely secular yoga that still honors yoga's roots and origins without misrepresenting its tradition? It's essential that mental health care practitioners and researchers consider the ethical aspects of integrating yoga into their work. They must conduct their practice respectfully with a thorough grasp of yoga and mindful of the diversity among populations served. As yoga is incorporated into clinical environments, it's critical to approach this integration with careful consideration, respecting its origins and maintaining its integrity, while also adapting it for relevance within modern healthcare. This represents a balanced approach, acknowledging traditional practices alongside their modern therapeutic use, grounded in respect, inclusion, and ethical awareness. Yoga's philosophy and practices stretch across history, evolving through ages and cultures. The question of whether yoga should be considered a religious or a secular practice has sparked intense debate. Yoga's origins are connected to ancient Hindu traditions, but the classical texts present yoga as primarily a spiritual pursuit aimed at reaching a state of spiritual awareness, which is outside of religious dogmas. The historical 8-part path of yoga describes following a path to spiritual awareness. The path instructs following the ethical guidelines alongside asana, posture, pranayama, breath control, and aspects of mindful stillness and dhyana, meditation. As yoga spread worldwide and settled in diverse cultures, a paradox surfaced. Practitioners and teachers argue that certain elements of yoga can be secularized, specifically asanas and breathing exercises. This perspective has broadened yoga's appeal, drawing those from various religious backgrounds or from none at all, to benefit from its holistic practices focused on enhancing physical and mental well-being. Yet, secularizing yoga is complex. Some poses are named after Hindu deities, raising the question of whether practicing them might inadvertently cross the line from secular exercise into religious observance. And practices like mantra chanting may feel inherently religious and possibly create confusion around diversity, misappropriation, and potentially alienating individuals from different faiths. These concerns are practical as they affect places like public schools and government-funded healthcare, where a stance of religious neutrality is required. Decisions around the secularization of yoga in these contexts becomes particularly significant. In response, some suggest renaming poses and eliminating spiritual references, effectively transforming yoga into a method for physical health and stress relief. Yet, by removing the philosophical and spiritual framework of yoga, we risk diluting its essence. This practice of picking and choosing cultural elements, often called cultural appropriation, is contentious. It not only strips yoga of its comprehensive heritage, but also presents ethical issues about disrespecting its original culture. Working through this issue requires a balance where yoga is presented respectfully towards its cultural foundations, yet remains adaptable and approachable for a broad audience. We need to ask if secularizing yoga undermines its foundations of integrating body, breath, mind, and spirit. Turning it into a non-spiritual practice for wider acceptance may depart from its core purpose, possibly making it helpful only for specific physical or mental benefits, but not really holistic in practice. In considering the secularization of yoga, we must also consider the ethical impact, which is, how do we respect and honor yoga's history and tradition, but also make space for it to be broadly applicable? Ultimately, when we consider yoga within the therapeutic context, the answers are not simple. Whether yoga interventions are framed within a spiritual or secular dialogue, the aim remains clear: to harness the transformative power of these practices to promote healing and well-being. The Sanskrit language terminology, which is considered the language of yoga, may not resonate with all practitioners or students. In secular therapeutic settings, The use of descriptive terms for poses, or a translation of the terms in a local language, could be employed to maintain focus on the physical and mental benefits of the practice. Simplifying yoga can be considered by changing the instructional language. Practices that utilize mantra, sound, or chanting can be modified with non-spiritual words that still maintain the rhythmic and meditative quality that is often beneficial to mental health. Additionally, the manner in which yoga is presented should be done in a way that respects the diversity of body abilities and cultures. Representations that reflect a variety of ethnicities, body types, and ages not only promotes inclusion but also counters the narrow stereotypes of yoga practitioners as being predominantly young, white, and female. Offering a diverse representation of how yoga is promoted through marketing and within the yoga space itself can help foster a more welcoming environment for all. The adaptations extend beyond cultural considerations, though, to encompass consideration for physical abilities. Recognizing that one size does not fit all, modifications and props should be readily available to make yoga a practice that truly is for every body. Tailoring sessions to accommodate for varying levels of flexibility, strength, and balance ensures that the benefits of yoga are accessible to individuals with physical limitations or for those who are new to the practice. Thoughtful adaptations that promote inclusivity should be transparently discussed with practitioners and students alike. It's important to educate participants about the origins of yoga, to familiarize them with the practice, and to encourage cultural respect. This approach facilitates dialogue about yoga's roots and its adaptation to current needs, creating a learning space that respects tradition and welcomes adaptation. By acknowledging these complexities, we invite the opportunity for yoga to retain its authenticity while also becoming a practice that supports the fundamental principle of yoga, that of unity, connecting the self with consciousness and the individual within the community. It's essential for yoga to be an inclusive space and one that is inviting to everyone. Yoga's true value lies in its ability to adapt and welcome all. Yet research raises an important issue. Does yoga's current portrayal exclude potential participants? The typical imagery of yoga, that of specific gymnastic-like postures, peaceful meditation, and the type of individuals featured in advertisements, tends to depict a narrow segment, mainly young, white, affluent, and female. Such a narrow view could create obstacles, suggesting yoga is out of reach for many who might otherwise benefit from its restorative properties. Yoga is sometimes wrongly seen as mainly for women, leading to a non-inclusive gender environment. Regarding race and ethnicity, there's a clear imbalance with fewer ethnic minorities involved in yoga research, potentially limiting the applicability of study results in diverse societies. More inclusive imagery in a yoga studio environment and in advertising can help remove these obstacles and begin to dismantle misperceptions of barriers, fostering a setting where everyone, regardless of their gender or ethnic background, can see themselves reflected and feel welcome. Another pressing challenge lies within the realm of physical and mental health conditions. Yoga's therapeutic potential can be hindered by a one-size-fits-all approach that fails to accommodate the nuanced needs of individuals with specific health concerns. The pregnant, the elderly, those with chronic pain, limited mobility, or psychological conditions like trauma, each requires a yoga practice tailored to their circumstances. This necessitates adept teachers capable of adapting poses, forging a safe and approachable yoga practice that celebrates and supports every individual's path to well-being. This is especially important in the healthcare context, where yoga could serve as a powerful adjunct in managing various conditions. The yoga practice must be adapted to address individual limitations and strengths, which could significantly lower dropout rates, increase effectiveness, and offer those challenged by health conditions a chance to exercise ownership over their body. Research into the benefits of yoga should aim for greater diversity to help ensure inclusivity within findings that will help affirm a balanced understanding of yoga's value. As we close our talk today, let's highlight yoga's role in mental health. Yoga with traditional Hindu roots is an important therapeutic tool, with research validating its many uses and applications for physical and mental health. Its adaptation into mental health therapy is complex due to ethical issues. The secularization of yoga in health settings brings up points about its spiritual beginnings, finding a balance between cultural respect and appropriation, and honoring its Hindu origins while being accessible to many. Yoga must work to continue breaking barriers and stereotypes in order to reach diverse ethnicities, genders, and people of all abilities. Cultural sensitivity is vital for ethical reasons and crucial to extend yoga's benefits to all. I invite you to continue reflecting on how you can further ethically adapt aspects of yoga into your practice approach, while still honoring, respecting, and appreciating its culture, value, and historical roots. See how you may put in place some of the suggestions in this article within your own work in the field of yoga and therapy. Thank you to the authors and publisher for all of the research into this important article, The Ethics of Yoga in Mental Health Care, Beyond the Traditional Eightfold Path. For those eager to continue exploring, or for anyone seeking more in-depth information, additional resources and supplementary materials can be accessed within the links provided in the episode description. As we end our time together, remember to embrace and witness the beauty of life, and within shared experience, be the thread that creates compassion and curiosity for others. Thank you for joining me on this journey in learning how research supports yoga and integrative practices for mental health and well-being. May you find and share beauty and peace on your journey toward wellness.